Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to VetNet. Today's session will focus on LinkedIn for military spouses and caregivers. My name is Ashley Squires, and I'm the Manager of Alumni Services for Syracuse University's Institute for Veterans and Military Families. For those of you watching this webinar and are unfamiliar with IVMF, the Institute offers no-cost programs that support all aspects of service members, veterans, and their families' post-service lives. From navigating community services and support through our America Serves program, to professional certifications for in-demand careers and employment through our Onward to Opportunity program, as well as entrepreneurial training through the IVMF Arsenal, which is comprised of over 8 national entrepreneurship programs. And one of our initiatives that you're seeing here today is our IVMF VetNet network, which is what you are watching this live stream through today. And today's VetNet session is in partnership with LinkedIn and will focus on the military benefits, or the benefits of military spouses and caregivers and the things that they can take advantage of. And with that, it is my pleasure to kick off today's session and introduce the head of LinkedIn's Military and Veterans programs, Sarah Roberts. Sarah leads LinkedIn efforts to support military communities as the head of military and veteran programs. Prior to joining LinkedIn, Sarah led the talent acquisition and operations strategy for Nordstrom Retail. Sarah served in a variety of roles supporting the veteran community in both nonprofit and for-profit sectors. She led efforts focused on community building at Team Red, White, and Blue, a national veteran service organization, where she served as the Northwest Regional Director. In her role, Sarah spearheaded business development efforts, designed and executed leadership development programs, and led over 40 community leaders in their mission to enrich veterans' lives through physical and social activity. She was featured in The Warhorse for forging purpose and community in the nonprofit sector. She built talent acquisition and diversity programs in the tech industry for both Amazon and Microsoft, where she led teams focused on recruiting, employment branding, and program management to support the military community. Sarah is passionate about service and efforts to support social impact across communities she supports. I will be moderating this session and monitoring the chat channel throughout the course of this webinar. If any of our live viewers today have questions for Sarah during this session, feel free to type them into the chat box, and then we'll make sure to answer as many as we can after her presentation today. And Sarah, with that, welcome to VetNet, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley, for the invite and the just really warm introduction. I am really excited to be here and to share a little bit more about LinkedIn's commitment to the military community and serving military spouses. I joined LinkedIn in March as part of my transition. I'm super excited to backfill Dan Savage, who handed the reins over to me a few months ago. One of the big initiatives that LinkedIn is committed to carrying forward is our support to the military spouse community and continued collaboration with our partners. So with that, I will walk through how to best leverage LinkedIn and use LinkedIn as a great tool for military spouses and caregivers. So when we think about the power of LinkedIn as a tool, I like to use the analogy of a Venn diagram and thinking of the different areas and looking at our community, our transitioning service members, spouses as one component, looking at our nonprofit partners, our government supporters as another component, and then our employers as another piece, with LinkedIn being the multi-sided marketplace in the middle. So when you think of LinkedIn and how to best optimize LinkedIn, there's several different areas that I think are super important that I'm going to walk through today. So one of those is how to be in charge of telling your story in a way that will hopefully create your own brand, but also attract employers and recruiters to your personal profile. The other piece is algorithms matter, how to use LinkedIn intentionally so that you can create that brand that will help also highlight that story and bring employers to your personal LinkedIn page. And then also using LinkedIn as a tool to search for flexible remote work, looking for opportunities to set up informational interviews and connect with recruiters. And then the advantage of using LinkedIn Learning as something to continue to educate yourself as a lifelong learner and continue to refreshen the skills as you continue to pivot during your professional career. So you are in charge of how you tell your personal story. And so some really simple things that most folks don't think about is when you look at how to best represent yourself on LinkedIn, be really thoughtful about your profile picture. The profile picture that you choose is really the best and most important place to start in thinking about how you want to represent yourself professionally. So I love these 3 different photos because it represents just a very vast array of how you can represent your professional self on LinkedIn. So one is Mark Elliott, buttoned up, suit and tie, working for JP Morgan Chase, very much represents the baking industry. Then you also have Sarah Spinelli, who has just this fun, kind of live, interactive photo. And then as you pivot to Jake Wood, he looks like he's wearing a hoodie and a t-shirt, clearly represents Team Rubicon, an organization that supports natural disasters. So being thoughtful about your picture, making sure that your picture takes up your headshot takes up most of the circular space, and then also be thoughtful about a background photo. Oftentimes folks will keep that very simple blue background photo like Mark Elliott. I always encourage folks to go take that extra effort to pick a background photo that also is another way to represent yourself professionally. So next, tell your story, be authentic, be the person that you want to represent professionally. Use your summary and your title at the very top of your LinkedIn profile to really represent what's important to you. So I love this one from Susan. So social innovation, program design and activation, business development. You all have the opportunity to do that, so be really thoughtful about some of those key words that you want to represent in your title. And then also in that summary, we typically, when we look at the backgrounds of military spouses, I'm super cognizant of the fact that there have been several career pivots and transitions that maybe have happened unintentionally that might be a non-traditional career path. And so being able to be thoughtful as you build out that profile and talk through some of those transitions, being able to think through how you want to represent some of those gaps in employment, or how you have maybe bounced in several different industries based off of your support as a caregiver military spouse. Don't shy away from talking about some of those obstacles that you've had to overcome. Those are actually strengths that I think are really important to portray as you're building out your LinkedIn profile in a way that can demonstrate, working through adversity, dealing with ambiguity, remaining flexible. There's just some really great ways to represent professionally. Also being able to talk about interests, things you've learned, and then what are your goals? I think when you put together your LinkedIn profile and the summary page, don't always look backwards. Use it as an opportunity to look forward. If there's a particular area that you're passionate about or you're working on building skills in, I think it's really important to be able to represent that as you look forward and building out your LinkedIn profile. So volunteer experience. I think this is a great opportunity to highlight skills that you have been learning while you've been working in the military community. Oftentimes folks will downplay the importance of volunteer work. And I always push back and say, well, did you learn something from that? Were there skills that you obtained from that experience? And usually the answer is yes. And so don't shy away from, if you have some of those gaps in employment or some of those untraditional career paths or experiences, fill those in with volunteer experience or different things that you have participated in that highlight some of those skills that you've been able to augment and fill during the course of your professional career path. The next, highlight different projects, publications, volunteer work that you've been a part of. I think this is another really great way for you to be able to highlight some of the unique ways that you've continued to grow and demonstrate your professional growth. So again, always just be really true and represent yourself in that personal profile. A LinkedIn profile is a little bit different than a resume to some degree. I always think of my LinkedIn profile as really my template. And then as I go to start applying for jobs and looking for specific roles, I will typically cater my LinkedIn profile and change certain things to apply those to a particular resume or job description that I'm hoping to apply to. So. Next, I always like to share this because there's so much value in understanding how the algorithms work at LinkedIn and how to use those to your advantage as that job seeker, as that LinkedIn power user. So your profile and the different things that you put on your profile actually drive our algorithms and our recommendations. So when you're thinking about the types of roles, that's where I emphasize the importance of also being forward-looking. If you are looking for, in this case, program manager, I think it's really important to be able to highlight program manager and the skills that you have, because when you think of the algorithm and how that works, it's going to pull up program manager roles that you could potentially be interested in based on the fact that you listed program manager somewhere in one of your professional titles or your jobs. And so just being thoughtful about that. This is another thing that I think is really helpful in leveraging the premium benefit, is it also gives you additional insights to be able to see where you would be that top applicant for a particular role. And if you're not a top applicant, then you can start doing that skills crosswalk. So you can look at that particular job description, and then you can map that to your professional LinkedIn profile and start looking for some of those gaps and the skills that you might need to augment to make yourself more competitive for a particular role. And I'll talk a little bit about that towards the end when we highlight our LinkedIn Learning. So this is super important. In addition to thinking about the job title, that you also being super thoughtful about the top skills that you want to highlight on your professional profile. So you have up to 50 that you can select, but I always recommend that folks be really strategic about those top 3, because those top 3 are the ones that people are going to see. And so those are the skills that you'll typically be endorsed for, the skills that you want to highlight. So in this instance, leadership, policy analysis, and strategy were the top 3. And again, you can see that really drives recommendations and endorsements from people in the community. So again, this is a really good chance to highlight soft skills. This is also something that recruiters do search filters. If you have those skills listed in your LinkedIn profile, this is going to pop you up in the LinkedIn Talent Solutions recruiter profile as a top candidate. And then it also feeds our recommendations for different courses, jobs that you might be interested in applying for, and then also connections as you look to expand your network across the community. So next, how do you tag yourself as a military spouse without putting transitioning military spouse or military spouse in your LinkedIn profile? People always ask if that's something that they should put in their profile, and I always say it's really up to you. It depends. But one great way, if you are hesitant about putting that on your LinkedIn profile, is to join some of the military spouse groups. There's some great groups out there. So if you haven't already joined the MSET spouse group posted here, or Hiring Our Heroes spouse groups, I'm sure there's a few others that are fantastic. Using those as an opportunity to tag as a military spouse, because oftentimes employers are actually using that as a way to search for candidates. So employers are a part of those groups, they search those groups for candidates, but they also post jobs in those groups. And so that's one really great way to be thoughtful, but also to start building your network across the spouse community and with potential employers. So don't underestimate the power of leveraging some of those LinkedIn groups. Career preferences. This is super important in being able to receive outreach from actual recruiters on LinkedIn. And so when you go to your career interests on your LinkedIn profile, you can see that button at the very top that says let recruiters know that you're open. So be sure you switch that to on. As soon as you switch that to on, there's some select questions that you can fill out based off of the types of positions that you're open for. If you are actively looking for a job search, or you are exploring career opportunities, or you know you're going to be PCSing and you want to get ahead of the game, make sure you turn this on. I also recommend, if you're not even actively job searching, to still have it on. One of the questions I'll get asked on the back end is if you work at a current company and you turn that on, if that company is going to see. The answer is no. That was a concern that was raised to LinkedIn, and so you do not have to worry about that at all. So I definitely recommend that you turn that on if you are at any point in that active job search, or even just starting to get your toes in and start exploring what's next. So this is just another quick highlight on how to navigate towards it. So turning it on, be sure you let recruiters know, and make sure you update those statuses, and then also with the dates. Super important, really, really easy step that you can do. You can even do it right here on your mobile device. So next, thinking about how recruiters use LinkedIn Recruiter to find candidates. So this is a snapshot of our LinkedIn Recruiter tool, and I'll just walk through this as a quick example. So this particular recruiter is looking for a program manager in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so as they started filtering through this, you can see how this actually maps down to narrow the pipeline of potential candidates. And so this person, with this quick search, they found 607 total candidates. And I want to walk through each of these tabs up at the top because I think they're really important for you as that job seeker to be able to understand how recruiters find candidates. So again, here's some basic filters. This is why I emphasize the importance of listing that job title, being thoughtful. You can see those skills. That skill says program management, and then locations. So I always recommend folks really be forward looking. So if you're getting ready to PCS from, say, Fort Benning to San Antonio, think future. You want to list that future location so that recruiters in that geographical area are searching for you as that future candidate that's going to be relocating to San Antonio. So that's where that 617 total candidates come from. If you next tab that has 129 are more likely to respond, that means that you are an active LinkedIn user. You're using LinkedIn, you're opening it up, you're interacting with other people on the platform. And so I always recommend, how many of you guys wake in the morning and the first thing you do is your mobile device? Super important. One of the things that you can do if you're checking Facebook and Instagram every morning, or your email, is hop on LinkedIn, open that mobile app, which is super user friendly, jump in and start liking and interacting with your community. So that's where that 129 comes from. Again, narrowing that pipeline for a recruiter. 64, open to new opportunities. That's what I talked about in that previous slide. So making sure you toggle that button, turn it on, super easy to do so that recruiters know that you're open. And then engaged with your talent brand. So a talent brand basically means every company has an employer brand. It's what makes you feel, it's how you feel about that particular organization. If you are engaged with that company page on LinkedIn, you follow that company page, you like some of the comments or posts, that means that you are engaged with that particular talent brand. So if you're getting ready to relocate to a particular area and you're doing research on companies and you're interested in several different companies and industries, make sure you follow those company pages. Make sure you start liking some of that content and posts, because again, as that filters down the search for a recruiter, you will be picked up in that based off of your activity and interaction with those company pages. Okay, so use LinkedIn to search for flexible and remote work. So I'll just briefly touch on this because I think there's some really good nuggets here. So as you think about updating your career preferences, there are opportunities to highlight that you're looking for remote work. We all know the value of having remote work and the flexibility that offers you professionally. And so here's a really easy way. So when it says where you want to be located, if you type in remote, it will come up. It won't actually pop up as one of the big cities, so you have to actually type in remote. And then if you hit this, I'm open to working remotely, and then you can choose the type of work that you're looking for, whether it's full-time, part-time, whatever best fits your circumstances. But definitely something that I recommend you do if you're open to exploring remote work. There's some great companies out there that are offering remote opportunities, and so again, this will also help open the aperture for the particular roles that you're open to exploring. Okay, so leverage LinkedIn's advanced searches. So again, this is a really great way to start leveraging LinkedIn and the power of connections as you use that LinkedIn Premium benefit. And so when you start looking at exploring particular areas or interests, if you go to your network and you start exploring people, you can start then filtering out the different folks that are first, second, and third degree connections as you start thinking about, one, building your network, and then strategically thinking about who to do outreach to learn more about particular opportunities. So as we continue to move forward, here's a great example. So say you're looking for somebody that worked past company. If it was a service member or if they're in a particular industry, you can actually search that company. And then you can see how you're connected to folks that reside in particular industries. And again, this is just a filter for past companies. You can use current companies. You can use locations. I'm sure as the military community, you've located several times and you have networks that are probably global, and so being able to leverage that and think of how you can reach out to and ask for help creatively as you look to build your LinkedIn network and look for that next opportunity. Another great way to build your network is through alumni, and again, this might be through your FRG groups or your spouse alumni or where you have been stationed, but also thinking back, you can use this not only with high school alumni, community college alumni, but there's all sorts of different ways where you can start using this to see, one, ways to connect with alumni, but then two, to see where they actually work and represent particular industries within certain geographies. So again, it's a way to start doing that research and that competitive intelligence as you start thinking about your job search. Mentorship. We all know the value of mentorship. I know I wouldn't be where I am today without having just some wonderful people in my life and mentors who are willing to reach out and give me their hand and lift me up. And so I would say the same to you. I'm sure that, as we look at our community, there's folks that are senior and there's folks that are younger. And I always say the power of the military community is just really, really beautiful. And I'm always super impressed with how incredible our community is in supporting and lifting each other up. So if you're open to giving mentorship, it's usually designated for people that have 10 plus years of experience. If you are looking to receive career advice or mentorship, that's usually somebody that has less than 10 years of experience. But if that's something you're open to, this is another opportunity for you to turn this on so that you can offer that mentorship or receive mentorship, and again, leverage the power of our incredible community. So how do you ask for advice? How do you start thinking about informational interviews and how to set those up? So I love this example. Jen is an incredible leader in this space, does some amazing work for the spouse community at Amazon. And I love this example of somebody reached out to Jen and just said, hey, I'm stationed at JBLM. I'm seeking roles in the Seattle area. I'd love to learn more. Do you have time for a quick 30-minute informational? So the reason I love this message is, one, it's personalized. One, there's a connection. So a fellow military spouse stationed in Seattle. Jen is in Seattle. And then also there's a so what. So the so what is, I'd love to learn more about your career path. See how this person isn't coming out and directly asking for a job. This person is really looking to establish a connection and learn more. And that's the difference between an informational interview versus a job interview. And I think another really great way to leverage the power of the community and seek mentorship in the community is to ask for help and seek for informational. So you can learn as much and be as informed about a particular industry or area or particular job that you're curious about or exploring. Another opportunity is to use the tool Veterati. This is super easy. I've used it as an employer. It maps employers to job seekers through their algorithm. It actually does the calling for you. Super easy, sends you reminders, but a great way to get connected with folks that are seeking both mentorship and looking to receive mentorship. And then if you thinking about informational interviews or even just job interviews feels like uncharted territory or something that feels a little bit uncomfortable as you start thinking about what's next, there's some great LinkedIn learning courses about what an informational interview is, what's the difference between an informational and a job interview. I always go back to one of the best pieces of advice that I received as I was getting ready to transition was to invest in myself and to buy myself a $100 Starbucks gift card to start asking people to meet me for coffee, paying for their coffee so that I could set up informationals to learn about a particular industry. And it paid itself forward in dividends because, one, I got to meet a lot of really interesting people that were open to connecting with me. Two, I got to learn a lot about different areas that I hadn't thought about as I was looking at my job search. I had a really narrow job search and it really helped me open the aperture. But it also just helped build my bench of connections. So super, just a great idea as you think about setting up informationals. The one piece I would add is you can also do virtual informationals. There's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking to set up a phone call. The other piece is I always think it's really important for people to not think of LinkedIn as a one and done. When you think about the value of interacting with your community, it needs to be reciprocal. So you can't just create a LinkedIn profile and walk away from it and leave it stale for 6 months. It's something that you really need to be thoughtful about as you interact with your community. It's no different than any other relationship. The more you invest into it, the more you get back. And so just being really, really thoughtful about that, building your connects, interacting, liking, comments, sharing, those are all really important things to continue to do on LinkedIn. The one piece that I also want to share too is a lot of folks that are new to LinkedIn, there's a level of hesitation on, oh, I don't really know if I want to share things or I don't feel comfortable yet. One of the really big operating priorities at LinkedIn is trust and safety. And so really making sure that LinkedIn is a positive, safe, and trusting place to be able to interact professionally, to dialogue with colleagues and other professionals, and to be able to have some of those conversations. So super important to us, and we hope that you all feel safe interacting on LinkedIn and sharing parts of your story as you what's next. Recommendations. This is another really beautiful way to leverage the power of our community. And so this is one of our wonderful employees, Mishu, who leads up our spouse program here at LinkedIn. And here's some of the recommendations. And I think it's really important as you guys are PCSing or interacting with others to ask for recommendations that will help add flavor and enhance your LinkedIn profile. It's really easy to ask for recommendations. I always say that it's somebody you should know. You should have some type of professional working relationship with them, but it can also be volunteer experience. So if you volunteered on a project, or you were an FRG leader, or you were doing something really great in the community, asking for, just being thoughtful about those recommendations. But you can ask for recommendations for volunteer work or other things that you have done outside of just your professional setting. So LinkedIn Learning, the last piece that I want to cover is the value of LinkedIn Learning, which comes with that premium benefit. And I will touch, at the very end, I'll touch on the premium benefit just to give you a full representation of what that includes. But LinkedIn Learning is a part of that. And so we have over 14,000 courses on LinkedIn. There's always being added. And I think that there's just a great vast range of what's available. So the one piece is, as you start thinking of your skills that you have and your professional profile and a job that you're interested in, and maybe some of those skills gaps that could potentially exist, LinkedIn Learning can help fill that gap. So if you are looking for something that has to do with program management and you're unsure as to how to best represent that, jump in a LinkedIn Learning course. You can then add that as a skill to your professional resume. And I'm just using that as one example because there's hundreds of thousands of different courses on LinkedIn Learning that you can use to help augment skills you might be missing on your professional resume, or you might actually have and you don't know and you're struggling to articulate it in a particular industry or use the right terms. So again, love the value of LinkedIn Learning. Again, this example is an Agile project manager. Somebody was looking for this particular skill in a top applicant. You can jump into LinkedIn Learning. There's some courses on Agile program management, and this person might actually have the skill, or they can use that to augment. So again, I talked about always looking earlier when I said turn on that button that says you're open to career opportunities, but never stop actively looking. I think from a recruiter lens and back in my recruiting days, some of the best advice I had gotten was to always be open to new opportunities. And a lot of recruiters are also looking for passive candidates. And so just based off of what might be in your LinkedIn resume or profile, you saw how the LinkedIn recruiter tool works just briefly. And so you never know when that right opportunity is out there. So always be actively networking, meeting other people, learning more about different areas or even your current industry. Start your search early, explore company pages. I always say do your competitive intelligence, understand what's out there. You want to make sure that when you make this next, when you find that next job opportunity, that one, it's a cultural fit, that it represents the values that are important to you, that the organization and what you're going to be working on is important, mission that you can relate to, because those are all really important pieces of us being able to have a successful career and a professional identity. Follow every company page you're interested in. So that button that highlights engaged with your talent brand, that is following that page. Super important and super easy to do. And again, when you check your mobile device first thing in the morning, another really great way to jump into that. And like I said, understanding company culture. You want to make sure that just as much as when you are interviewed to see if you're a cultural fit for that company, you want to make sure that as you're interviewing that company, that they are a cultural fit for you. Super important in making sure that you're both aligned. The other important piece in the algorithm is using job postings to learn about things that you hadn't necessarily thought or been open to. Based off of your skills, there's a lot of different jobs out there that you could potentially be qualified for that you'd never thought you were open to. So again, I always recommend keep that aperture open. Don't narrow yourself in your job search, but just be really inquisitive and curious about what's out there, and you'll never know what doors will open. The last piece that I want to highlight is, brainstorming skills, career paths, and connecting with others. Again, just the value of networking. But the other piece that is super important is set accurate salary expectations. So again, another piece that's really important to think about as you're relocating or you're getting ready to move into a different industry. What is your value? So you can use LinkedIn to do a little bit of competitive intelligence to see what somebody is getting paid for a particular job at a particular geographical area. But then also when you go into some of those conversations, where you could be potentially being given an offer and the conversation around compensation comes up, you can be adequately informed, but also know your worth. So finally, LinkedIn is always changing. There's a new product or feature that comes out almost daily. And so always be on the platform, be inquisitive. We just rolled out a LinkedIn toolkit, which you can leverage through your LinkedIn interview or your LinkedIn Premium, where you can walk through an actual interview process and dialogue Q&A. Super cool feature that just came out that's been really valuable to the community. So again, be curious, always explore what's out there. Another great way to always see what's changing is you can explore the LinkedIn blog to see some of the great content that is always being posted. And again, you can always find the latest learning courses that have become available on LinkedIn Learning. But I love this because frequently, at least once a quarter, we post the new skills that you can now learn on LinkedIn, but just really great content that will help you continue to stay fresh. And lastly, as we jump into LinkedIn Premium, if you go to linkedin.com/milspouse, you will be navigated to our website, which will help you discover how you can best upgrade to LinkedIn Premium. What happens with LinkedIn Premium, you get 1 year free LinkedIn Premium. For spouses, that is for every single transition you experience. So as a military spouse, you can use your LinkedIn Premium every time you experience a PCS, a job change, a job loss due to your support, you're supporting your significant other as a part of your work in the military community. So something that's really important to us that I want to make sure I highlight. And then again, with LinkedIn Premium, you get some of those enhanced features and intel, but also you get access to LinkedIn Learning, which is just a really, really great tool. So with that, thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with you. I always love talking about LinkedIn because, one, it's been such a wonderful professional tool for me personally, but I've also seen the value that it has across our military community. So I do have one other thing that I will share, and then obviously happy to take some questions if there's any particular questions that folks have for me.
Great, thank you, Sarah. And I'll let you negate throwing up your one pager that you wanted to throw up there. But I also wanted just to mention to everyone while she's doing that. So she mentioned ways to connect with alumni in that specific section. So if you are a graduate of any of our IVMF programs, so Onward to Opportunity, any of the Arsenal programs, EBV, VWise, any of them, you can actually put IVMF and subsequently your program on your LinkedIn profile, and then be connected to the IVMF alumni network. So similar how Sarah said that, with her example, we have that same opportunity here at IVMF. So that is another, transitioning service member, veteran, and military spouse community that you can be connected with in addition to the communities that Sarah mentioned. And then the other item that I wanted to mention is that as an IVMF graduate, through our partnership with LinkedIn, all IVMF grads receive free access to LinkedIn Learning through Alumni Services. So say that you utilize your 1 year of LinkedIn Premium, and then you still want to keep using LinkedIn Learning. You can register through IVMF Alumni Services, and we can re-grant you access. It's the same LinkedIn Learning platform. You can still, view all those courses and view the 14,000 that Sarah mentioned. But it's a really great benefit, and we do have a lot of grads utilize that because LinkedIn Learning is just such a great, valuable tool. So just make sure to keep that in mind. If you do the 1 year premium, obviously you don't need to register through us right away, but know that we are always here for you to do that as well. So with that, and while you guys are looking at this one pager, Sarah, I do have 2 questions that come in. I can introduce those to you. Beth says, is it possible to get LinkedIn Premium before a PCS so that we can job search early?
Yes, it absolutely is. So all you have to do is, if you toggle through, depending on if you are a DoD spouse or if you're a Coast Guard spouse, you just have to go through the steps of connecting with your MSEP counselor to get that premium URL code. But yes, you can absolutely use that pre-transition or pre-PCS, and that's the intent. So the power of LinkedIn is being able to get ahead of that job transition or that job search. So yes, you should absolutely be able to use that and should be using that before you actually PCS.
Great, thank you. The next question comes in. Is LinkedIn Premium, what you referenced for military spouses, only available to active duty spouses, or is it also for veteran spouses?
Yes, so right now it is designed for active duty spouses. So for veteran spouses, we have a program through the VA where we offer LinkedIn Premium to caregivers and Fry Scholars. So there's also an opportunity there to leverage LinkedIn Premium. What I would say is if you are a spouse that you know you're going to be exiting active duty, or your significant other, you're going to be leaving military service within a certain period of time, is to get that LinkedIn Premium so that you have it for at least a year during that transition window as you're leaving active duty.
And again, just to piggyback off that, although you might not be eligible for LinkedIn Learning, veteran spouses, as long as they're graduates of our program, do receive the no-cost LinkedIn Learning benefit as well through Alumni Services. So that's another benefit that you can really use these tools in tandem. Another question that came in is, if graduates of IVMF want to highlight the program they completed on their LinkedIn profile, is there a good way to do that? So I can take that one, Sarah, just because we have created tutorials for O2O graduates and then for any of the entrepreneurship graduates on how to accurately represent the IVMF and thus your program that you went through, you know, O2O, EBV, VWise, any of those on your LinkedIn profile accurately, so that you will appear in the right, you know, format, and then you will be synced to, you know, the slide that Sarah mentioned earlier to see where others live, where they work, and really boost your network that way. That is listed on our alumni website, which I will put in the chat here too. But if you ever can't find it, or if you ever want us to email that to you, you can always reach out to us, and I will put our email address in there too. And we can send you that tutorial directly as well. All right, any other questions? Feel free to type them into the chat here. Sarah, I'll ask my second question for you. Do you have some tips for, I know you went over a lot, but just really out of everything you went through, what would you say is like the #1 tip that you would give to military spouses and caregivers looking for job opportunities on LinkedIn? Like, is there one that kind of reigns above them all?
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I would say if you're going to do anything on LinkedIn, think of when you open somebody's LinkedIn profile, there's 3 things that you see. It's their profile picture, their summary title, and then their actual summary. And so if you're going to do anything on LinkedIn, if you can take the time to do that picture, that title, and a brief summary, those would be the most important pieces on just getting started. You can build out the rest from there. But that would be kind of the most important piece that I would think about if you're going to use LinkedIn as a job seeker and start connecting and with the community. Because very rarely will somebody accept a connection request from somebody that has an incomplete LinkedIn profile, or it doesn't look like somebody has put the thought into their profile. And I will share this too, because here's some also really great 10 tips to make the most of LinkedIn Premium, which I've shared with Ashley, and I'm sure she can share with you all as well.
Yes, that's great. So what I will do, and I'll mention this in a few moments as well once we kind of get through any other questions. If you do have additional questions, please type them in the chat box. But when we follow up with everyone that registered, we can send this one-pager out. So you'll have this PDF at your disposal to view as you would like. Joanna asks, are there any tips for entrepreneur spouses specifically that you could give?
Yes, absolutely. There is a tool called ProFinder. So when you go into your LinkedIn profile, you'll see that there's a square, like a area of boxes. I think it's like 9 boxes. If you click on that, there's actually a tool. There will be a bunch of different tools that open up, and one of them is called ProFinder. You could also just search for ProFinder, LinkedIn ProFinder. But the value of that is if you are an entrepreneur or a freelancer and you're looking to build out your business, you can actually let people know that you are open to do like particular freelance work or build your business. There's some different criteria that you can fill in there, but yeah, it's a really great tool for anybody that's an entrepreneur or freelancer.
Great, thank you. And then one question that was already answered, but I just want to clarify it just for the live viewers that are watching. The question I had was, should I put that I'm a military spouse or caregiver on my LinkedIn profile, and would that hurt my job prospects? And I know you already answered it, that it's really up to you and through joining the military spouse groups. But is there a benefit of putting it in the groups versus, or like joining those groups versus putting it in your about section? Like, you know, what people will see right when they click on your profile? Should you put it in both, or is it, you know, is that up to you again?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on the individual. I've heard feedback both ways where just to be totally honest, there's hesitation in somebody putting that they're a military spouse, thinking that it will exclude them from particular opportunities, or that they will not be selected because employers think that military spouses move frequently and they won't have them for as long as they would hope for. I always try to push back a little bit. I'm like, well, is that really the employer that you want to work for if they're not willing to really support your experience as a military spouse and even help you grow in your career, even if you transition, and keep you on board? So I always think it's better to add it. I think that it really represents like who you are and the community that you support, and I think there's some amazing experiences that come with being a military spouse. But again, I also understand the hesitation and not wanting to list it because of the fear that you might be excluded from particular jobs based off of the fact that you are a military spouse. So again, I know that's not a direct answer. I would say it depends, but I think that it's definitely something that you should list, and this should be important, but understand both ends of the spectrum. So
great, thank you for that. We had another question come in that I think I can answer. Courtney says, is LinkedIn Learning only for IVM alumni, or do IVMF current students have access to it? So that is a great question, Courtney. IVMF current students do have access to LinkedIn Learning, but they must complete their coursework first. So Courtney, if you are a part of like the Onward to Opportunity program, you would have to, say you registered for the PMP certification and you're an Onward to Opportunity, you know, going to get your PMP, you must complete that one course in Skillsoft before you would receive access to LinkedIn Learning, because we really want to make sure that the content and the material designed for why you are coming into the Onward to Opportunity program is fulfilled before we give you that additional professional development and learning tool. Because there are, you know, as Sarah mentioned, there are over 14,000 courses in there, and there are additional learning opportunities that can help you before you take your certification exam. But we really just want to make sure that you are taking you know, the assigned course material first, and as soon as that requirement is complete, then we open up and you can get access to LinkedIn Learning. Yes, it is something great to look forward to. All right, any other questions coming through? I see a few more people typing, so we'll just wait a few more seconds. But then if we don't have any other questions come in, we will wrap up. So I'll just wait a few more minutes, or a few more seconds. Oh, thank you for pointing that out, Courtney. We did have one question come in above. Can you talk about you know, inappropriate conduct messages, or what happens when you report or block on LinkedIn? You know, what feedback do you provide to individuals that report or block? And if that's something that you want to answer now, Sarah, or we want to take that offline, Q, we can always follow up with you individually as well. But Sarah, I leave that open to you on if that's something that you feel like you can answer right now.
yeah, I can definitely, I'll give you an overview, and then I'm happy to share out, we actually just published a trust and safety article. So our team actually shared numbers of fake accounts that we have removed over the course of the last, I don't know the exact time frame, but our trust and safety team is, one of our operating principles is trust and safety, and so we are always working to ensure that, one, that people who create a LinkedIn profile are actually who they are and being represented appropriately. I think there's a lot of just natural policing that goes on across the community, which is great. And I think that any time that you report either a profile that doesn't seem fake or something doesn't seem authentic, it, or you report inappropriate behavior, each one of those is evaluated because we want LinkedIn to be a safe environment. So we actually have a team that is completely dedicated to maintaining the trust and safety of all of the interactions that happen on LinkedIn. So super important. Everything that you send over goes to a team that actually vets that and explores and researches further so that they can take action appropriately.
Great, thank you for that, Sarah. Courtney and Desiree, I see that you're typing a few questions. I'll wait a few more moments. And Desiree, so Desiree's question, just to give it to the audience, was that she finished her course through Onward to Opportunity, and she's asking how to sign up for alumni services. So what I'm going to do is I will put our email address in there for alumni services, and then you can reach out to us directly, and then we'll get you through to the right resources available to you. We will email you back and forth with that. And then Courtney, question for you, Sarah. Courtney says, I'm a veteran spouse and had recently had a job loss. How does she access LinkedIn Premium? Is that in this PDF that we're going to send out, or is that somewhere else?
Yes, so the way that spouses access LinkedIn Premium is to go to our website, and then for DoD spouses, you will actually be taken to the MSEP career page, and they will walk through specific steps through the DoD side. For the Coast Guard side, it's a little bit different, but same process, where you'll be connected with a career counselor that will help you get your LinkedIn Premium and get it set up. For caregivers and Fry Scholars, there's a same thing for the VA. So they go through and they will work with each person to help distribute their premium code.
Perfect. Thank you. And I do think that is about all the time we have left for today. So Sarah, I just wanted to thank you for taking time to give us all of this great, valuable information and joining us on IVMF's VetNet today. We really sincerely appreciate our partnership with LinkedIn and appreciate that you taking the time to be here with us today. And for everyone viewing the live session, we will post this webinar on our VetNet page for future viewing access and for you to share with others who may benefit from seeing it. We will also be sending the recording link to anyone who registered for today's session, as well as a survey to fill out on today's session. Please fill out this short survey. It is very short. It's like 4 questions, and it will help us to make sure that we are providing valuable content to you and to give us new ideas on what webinars you would be interested in attending in the future. And I did want to leave you all with information on our next VetNet webinar. On Tuesday, September 10th, we'll be hosting Amazon Web Services, Frank Recruitment Group, Great Lakes Chemical Corporation, and a few others for our Employer Spotlight. And to learn more about the VetNet program, this webinar, and to see future VetNets, you can visit our website, ivmf.syr.edu/alumni. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, thank you.